One of the most fascinating things that you have shared is how Janet's art was a window into her brain. You could actually predict a seizure by looking at her palette. How did that work?
In reality, not coming from a creative field
Okay.
and not having anyone in the family who really enjoyed art, we didn't detect it.
Okay.
We went through ups and downs trying to understand where her talent was, and as she moved on, it was many years later as you speak to more people and then you meet up with people who love colors, people who love art, then they start making comments like, oh, looking at the art, you can actually see that, Janet is a very happy lady. She's very cheerful,
Yep.
she's very sweet from the colors that display. And that then, as I was arranging her art pieces, I came across some art pieces were not quite that.
Okay.
They were very dark,
Okay.
deep colors.
True.
And then I began to look around and said, hey, out of so many art pieces, these are just a few which seems to be like this. And as I started spending more time watching her do her painting and things like that, then I started to see the correlation
Okay.
that the dark colors came in either prior to her having a seizure or post her seizure, which then meant that there was probably some neural disturbance at that point in time that causes her feelings to change and
Okay.
therefore the darker colors.
Joyce, you have turned this philosophy into a program called the Artpreneur Mentorship. Instead of trying to cure neurodivergent individuals to fit a normal job, you help families build a world around the child's unique gift. Why is the phrase perfectly imperfect so important to your mission?
Yes, that is something that Janet taught me. We
Yeah.
always think that things have to be done in a certain way and things should be shown in a certain way, which obviously Janet never complied. Her art was never quite what people expected of her art. Okay? She would have suddenly a spark of red in the sky, and she will explain to you why. Or she would have a spark of yellow on the water, and she will give you a reason why. Okay? But when we look at it just as a piece of art that we supposedly said this is how a sky should look like, this is how
Yeah.
the lake should look like, then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it made sense to Janet.
Yeah.
So as I went on to go looking at it and seeing different perspectives, I realized that art, just as beauty, is in the eyes of the beholder.
Exactly.
What we don't see as being something that we can appreciate doesn't mean that another person can't see something that beautiful inside it. And that was reflected in the artists that I brought in to build them, okay, as artpreneurs. Because the parents who came to me to be mentored were exactly having the me back then, that this piece of art I cannot understand. So I don't think people will appreciate it, right? He doesn't use colors. He just used pencil to draw. We cannot sell art which is not colorful. Okay? You just use black and white ink and scribble don't know what. Okay? People won't buy. So with my Artpreneur mentorship program, it was for me not to get the parents to try to change the way the child creates the art, but to rather adapt what the child likes to do and learn how to create a business out of what the child is developing.
Yeah.
Without making it extremely hard for the child. So it was just a matter, it's almost the metaphor of like you have your bulb and your nut. If you have a round nut, you will have to find the round bolt. You can't
Yes.
put a square bolt and then try to squeeze it in because you can do it. Over time, it gets rounded and you can put through, but it's hard effort. Whereas if you choose the right one, then it just goes straight away.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if you have a child who seems to have their own ways, and we know that it is actually an inborn neurological difference, why try to change the brain, which we are not in control of? Why don't we see how we can adapt to help this brain fit into the society or achieve what they can do with the difference that they have within them?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's very interesting. I remember that when I was watching Janet's documentary, uh, one of the parts you were mentioning that Phillips, okay, her arts teacher, was saying when you approached him last time, he was saying that he was an artist, okay. If he cannot appreciate the art, then the art is not worthy or something like that. And Philip was very kind enough to give her a chance to explore.
Mhm.
And eventually he said that, yes, Janet has the talent. It's just that we have to look at her art in a different way.
Yes, exactly that. I'm very thankful to him. Actually, the reason why I went to him was because when Janet was following her art teacher, her first art teacher, and creating beautiful artworks, she was still just playing with colors when she was back home. So much so that when you put both the art together, you will just question and say, is it by the same artist? It was so
Yeah.
distinctly different.
Yeah.
And after a while, I started getting worried because when I'm around, I know I can explain and I can even prove that she's the one doing both the artwork.
Yes.
But I was looking beyond that and said, what happens the day come when I'm not there with her? How can she defend herself? And how can her sister, who is not into her daily life, explain about the differences?
Yes.
Right? She wouldn't understand. So that was when I was also a bit worried, to be honest, again, that I was doing the wrong path, spending 6 years hoping that she would be an artist, and maybe she was never going to become an artist. So that's when I approached Phillips, and I was very, very comforted by him when he said, if an artist cannot appreciate an art, then she's probably definitely not an artist, because even one line can have its own beauty.
Exactly. Yep.
And I also thank him for his patience, because when Janet first started with him, it was almost like a release of pressure. Janet's work that was produced when she was with Philip was shocking.
Yep.
It was like, I've never seen such work before. It was never her. And Philip tried to give her the space to like pour out her frustration. Then he tried giving her different kinds of techniques, tools, methods, just for her to see what she liked. And eventually to discover that she has only a strong passion for colors, and that's what's driving her for art.
Yeah.
So he came to me and he told me Janet is a colorist. Everyone has an object when they do art, and her object is just colors. He also allowed me to see beyond that. The issue we will have, or rather the setback we will have, is her collectors will change. Those who bought her art previously may not appreciate the new work that she's producing.
Yes.
And the new work that she's producing will be very attractive to people who love colors. So it's a very different audience, and it's probably a smaller audience than what she used to have.
Yeah.
But for me, it's important for the person to find the space where they are most comfortable with and develop from there to be who they are, than to force them to be in a space that doesn't feel them.
Yep.
And force people to accept them, or
Yep.
force them to try to behave and act like someone, because both sides will be equally frustrating. I think if I had continued that journey, we would not have seen Janet as she was in her last days.
Yep. Joyce, for a parent or teacher who is watching this and feeling exhausted by a child's behavior today, what is your message to them?
Throw away the labels. Good. Okay. Don't let the label craft the child's life. Sit back and try to reflect or understand what could possibly be the issue. Speak to different people and hear people's opinion. Of course, being the specialist, is a good thing. But sometimes, once a label has been formed, there's a tendency to say, these are the characteristics of that label.
Yeah.
But speaking to someone else who is naive about this, they will have different views. And there's no harm, like me, just trying what other people are suggesting. It's either nothing changes or something changed,
Yes.
which is what we experience with the vision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I will say, treat every child's behavior as a message to you that something is not right. As a parent coach, I have come across children who hate to go to school. And some of these are because they learn differently
Yes.
and they are struggling,
Mm-hmm.
so they don't enjoy school.
Okay.
Some of them are because they cannot comprehend what is being taught, and so they feel that it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Once you know what is causing the problem and just work on that, you will see the results. These are things that tuition doesn't help. Okay, so if you send them to a tuition teacher and it doesn't help, it might be worthwhile to look at other alternatives before you revert back to tuition. If it's a behavior and you have seen a behavioral therapist and worked on certain things, it doesn't help. Maybe it's trying to tell you that that behavior is just the result of a cause. It's not the cause. So go back and try to find the cause. I know as a parent, okay, it's tiring, but if we want to think about the child's long term, it's something that we will have to invest time and effort to help the child. Because if we don't help them, no one else is there to help them.
Yeah. Thank you, Joyce, for sharing this. It's a very valuable.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Joyce, thank you for your wisdom and sharing and for keeping Janet's light shining for all of us. To our viewers, remember, look beneath the surface. In our next few episodes of Empowered Families, 星光家园, we are peeling back the layers on the pandemic developmental lag. Many parents of children born or raised during the pandemic from the year of 2020 to 2022 are now noticing that something unexpected are happening in school for their little ones. Teachers are reporting social anxiety, speech delays, or difficulty following routines. As parents, we often ask ourselves, did I do something wrong? The answer is no. To ease parents' worries, in the next few episodes, we'll discuss how neurological issues can affect a child's behavior and learning. Don't miss the crucial conversation. Let's stop the guilt and start the support. See you in the next episode.